College professors, what's your "I'm surprised you made it out of high school" story? I was in my first year of teaching at the college level, assigned to a postgrad program in dietetics. It was exciting, but intimidating, especially teaching students who already had their BSc and were now diving into more advanced material. I'd spent the summer rewriting the curriculum, updating assignments, and streamlining lectures to make everything clearer and more cohesive. I felt pretty confident that the adjustments would make the semester run smoothly. Students would understand the expectations and be more engaged. Early in the semester, one student immediately caught my attention. Not in a good way. They had a history, I later learned, of failing the previous year in a similar course. They hadn't passed due to missing too many cooking labs and not handing in about half of their assignments. I assumed that with a new curriculum, new assignments, and a fresh start, they'd take things seriously. I was wrong. By mid-semester, it became clear that this student wasn't attending lectures consistently and was selectively submitting assignments. They were the kind of student who would show up just enough to appear engaged but never truly participated or kept up with the coursework. At first, I chalked it up to nerves or adjusting to postgrad life, but the pattern kept repeating. I decided it was time for a one-on-one conversation to see what was going on. I asked them to meet after class, and they showed up looking entirely unconcerned. I sat down with them and asked about their attendance and incomplete assignments. They seemed genuinely confused by my questions, almost defensive. Then they explained their thinking and my jaw nearly dropped. They believed their marks from the previous year were cumulative with the current semester's marks. In their mind, since they had failed last year but now had new assignments, all they had to do was make up enough marks in the current semester to reach a passing grade. They didn't understand or refused to understand that the previous year's curriculum was completely separate, that the assignments were entirely different, and that the professor was not the same. They had assumed some magical continuity between courses that simply didn't exist. This wasn't just a misunderstanding of policy. They were in a postgrad program. They had completed a bachelor's degree in dietetics and were now in advanced study. Somehow, they had managed to graduate with their BSc without grasping the basics of how coursework and grading functioned at the university level. The cognitive dissonance was staggering. I tried to explain that each semester was independent, that assignments from the previous year couldn't be retroactively counted toward the current grade, and that failure in past courses required them to complete the new curriculum fully to pass. They blinked at me, slowly processing, as if I had spoken in another language. Eventually, they nodded, thanked me, and promised to catch up. The next few weeks were a mix of frustration and disbelief. They turned in assignments late, sometimes incomplete, often still seeming to operate under the assumption that somehow the system would adjust itself to pass them. I had to track every submission carefully, ensure grading was fair but firm, and constantly remind them that the semester required full participation and effort. By the end of the term, they managed to scrape through and pass the course, but it was a miracle. More than once, I found myself staring at their assignment submissions thinking, how did you make it this far in life and into a postgrad program? Their explanations for missing labs or skipping lectures were equally bewildering. One week, they thought lab attendance didn't matter, as long as they read the textbook. Another week, they assumed assignment deadlines were flexible because they had done enough work the previous semester. It was an endless cycle of confusion and justification. Looking back, I realized this experience was both shocking and illuminating. It highlighted that some students can slip through the cracks of the educational system, reaching advanced programs without fully mastering the basics. I also understood that assumptions about prior knowledge and professional preparation can be dangerously misleading. Even now, years later, I recall this student whenever I encounter a similarly baffling misunderstanding from students who seem completely unaware of how the academic system works. It's a story I share quietly with colleagues, less as a cautionary tale and more as a testament to the resilience of human ignorance. Somehow, against all odds, they made it out of high school, completed a BSc, and showed up in my postgrad class, fully convinced they understood how it all worked when, in reality, they were entirely adrift. It's still one of the most astonishing student experiences I've ever had, the kind that makes